All right, welcome everyone to the ODAN series. This is the first video in this series where I want to go over how I utilize routines to build habits that will enable me to develop the presence of mind and character traits that the future me has, and in doing so, getting into these routines and habits will, step by step get me closer to being that person. So, in the beginning of the day, I do something I call orienting the day. This is kind of a daily check in where I assess how I'm feeling, how I slept. I'll kind of run through this Google form. I have all these different protocols listed out in Google Forms, and it takes maybe 5-10 minutes to complete, and I can see all the responses and look back. So it's also good for journal keeping and for referencing. So I start off. I try to rate how the last night's sleep was, on a scale of 1 to 5, and then do a quick little physical assessment, how I'm feeling physically, emotionally, mentally. Then I ask a little bit more targeted questions about mindset and behavior. And in doing so, this kind of introduces intentionality into how I appear and how I act in various social environments. So, starting off with, what kind of person do I want to be today, gets me to think about, to other people, what should my affect, how do I come across to other people, and how do I want to come across to other people. Then I think about things that I want to accomplish today. So just getting it down on paper helps cement it in my mind. I can always look back on what I wrote down that morning, and if I'm ever in a lull or at a point where I'm bored and having difficulty deciding on what I want to do, I can go back and look at the things that I wanted to accomplish at that earlier point in the morning, and then I start thinking about what kinds of resources I want to utilize to hit those targets, right? Wisdom of parents or extended family or friends, social circles, monetary resources, time resources, those kinds of things. And then we kind of get into questions that help establish and then position a mental locus. So I think gratitude is something that often gets neglected, at least for me, because I've always been super busy and I don't often take enough time to think about the things that I'm grateful for and the people who I appreciate. So those two questions are good for bringing those kinds of thoughts out of the subconscious and to the forefront of my brain when I'm getting the day started and throughout the day. And then I round things out by asking myself how and ways that I can demonstrate that I appreciate people. It's a good exercise because it's great if you have well intentions, but if it doesn't come across that way, then there's a disconnect there, and you're not effectively showing people that you appreciate them, and so the relationship will atrophy. And then I go into, all right, is there some subset of people that I can strengthen my relationships today? And so I'll think about it, and then I'll list out, okay, based on the things that I have to do today and the places that I'm going to be, that I anticipate that I'll be, who are some people that I can identify that I'm going to make an active effort to strengthen my relationships with, list it out. And then finally, this is a more open-ended, thought-provoking question, but thinking about how can you create value in society, in the social marketplace? What services can I provide to people whose need isn't currently satisfied by the market? What are things that I'm good at that people tell me that they appreciate as positive externalities of our relationship? And how can I leverage that to a wider community of people that maybe would also benefit from those things? And then finally, I just have some subconscious priming routines that I go through. So I have a huge Excel worksheet with a life plan and goal tracking. So every day I'll read that aloud and I'll spend 5 minutes working on the goal tracking calendar. And when I'm done that, check it off, move on to the next one. Big fan of Dale Carnegie, his 2 books, How to Win Friends and Influence People and How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Great books, recommended to anybody that's looking to reframe their approach to relationships and social dynamics, and the golden rules that Carnegie lays out in those 2 books have been consolidated in that Excel sheet, and I'll read them out. There's probably about 60 or 75, itemized things. And so I'll read them aloud every morning and try to memorize 2 more than I did last time. So I'll check those off once it's done. Then we have the 17 Laws for Success. I can't remember which book this comes from. It might be Mental Dynamite. I think that's by Napoleon Hill. Or How to Start Thinking and Grow Rich, or Thinking and Grow Rich. It might be one of those 2 books, but I can't remember. But in one of those, self actualization, self improvement books, I found some really compelling ideas about how you can frame things in your mind to set yourself up to be successful. And I think the big idea is that success is never an endpoint, right? Like, a lot of people treat success as an endpoint. If I have X amount of money, if I accomplish X task, if I can do XYZ some amount of time by some date, then I will have been successful. And I think the big takeaway for me was success is more of a journey than a destination. And so if you treat it as a journey and think about, okay, let's just assume that future me is on this journey to success. What are the character traits and the characteristics and the habits and the processes that successful me would have that dictate, or derivatives of, or not derivatives, but parameters of success, right? And so once you've identified those things, habit building, creating a network of people that you rely on for advice and looking at problems from different perspectives, establishing discipline, having a definiteness of purpose and a plan, self-confidence, empathy, eagerness, those kinds of things. If I try to emulate those where I am now, once I eventually develop those traits, it's almost inevitable that I become that successful version of myself, because I have accrued all the character traits and qualities and dimensions of my own conception of what a successful version of me would be like. So it's almost kind of like a self-actualization kind of thing. So read those laws of success, try to memorize them, memorize one more law than I did last time. And then I'll move on to the definiteness of purpose and a definitive plan. And I think I'll make a video actually targeting all of these, the life plan, goal tracking, the golden rules, laws of success, definiteness of purpose, definitive plan, and the self-confidence formula. I'll make videos on all of these things, and I'll put it in my, I'm going to put it in my loose video playlist, because I think that all those things kind of fall under the philosophy of being loose. What does it mean to be loose? How do you become loose in your social engagement in those settings? So all those things, you can look for them down the road, explained in greater detail in that playlist. And so just to round out what I do to orient the day in the morning, I run through my definiteness of purpose and my plan. I read it aloud. I work on memorizing it. And then I spend 5 minutes updating, adjusting, working on the plan, and I'll reference the goal tracking calendar, check all these off, and then finally read aloud the self-confidence formula. It's just kind of a mantra that I say to myself to kind of reinforce this idea of, I have a plan. I've thought really hard about this plan. I'm adjusting this plan as things don't work. I'm adding what works, taking out what doesn't work. And through this process of continual improvement, I will inevitably get to where I need to be. So there's no reason to not be confident in yourself. That's kind of the distilling the essence of that mantra. I'll read it aloud, I'll sign it, and I'll work on memorizing it. And then I'm done. That's how I orient the day. After I usually do this right after I get back from running. So I'll go wake up 4:45, probably be on the track by 5, do my run, be back by 5:30, come back, shower, change, all that good stuff. Around 6, spend 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, 5, 10 minutes orienting the day. I guess it's got to be at least 10 to 15 minutes, because I have 5 minutes of working on these things. So it's probably closer to 15 minutes actually. But I'll orient the day, and then I'll have some free time before I start working, and then kind of keep this as a reference point in my back pocket whenever I encounter moments of uncertainty throughout the day. I'll look back on this, and it'll kind of help me reset and reframe things and stay on track and progressing in the direction that I want to. So then night comes around, and I do this thing called anchoring the night, right? It's reflecting on what were my goals at the beginning of the day, what did I do during the day, was there any incongruencies between those two, and then how do I need to adjust my schedule, my routine, my habits, my protocols in order to either increase adherence to the schedule, to the routine, or adjust the schedule routine in such a way that fits where I am now better. So you can kind of adjust on two ends of the spectrum. So I start out, what did I do today? Who did I meet? What was my impression of them? How did the interactions go? Who was I today? From my perspective, from other people's perspective, forcing myself to look at things not just from my own point of view, but from different points of view, which goes back into this idea of cultivating presence in a purposeful manner. So I don't want to just be doing things willy-nilly and not really knowing how I come across. I want to be intentional in how, if I have this objective and I'm taking these steps to get closer to my objective, but everyone that I meet, they're getting a different impression of me than I think they should, based on what my objectives are and based on how our interactions go, there's something wrong, right? And so this helps me think more about, okay, how can I be more open? How can I be more friendly? How can I not be insular and, all up in my head and and be more vested in other people and those kinds of things. So then it's kind of segues nicely into the next question, which is how did I grow as a person today? You know, in various capacities: son, brother, cousin, nephew, friend, leader, etc. Um, it's a long answer, so it can be as long or as short as I want it to be. And then in what dimensions and how can I continue to grow in those facets? So just identifying areas for improvement and always, thinking about how can I get better. That's like if there's one thing that you can take away from all of these processes is how do I get better at X? And it's different iterations of how can I get better at this? How can I get better at this? How can I get better at getting better? Um, how can I improve tomorrow? So instead of just nebulously saying, how can I grow and not really tying it down to something concrete, I go abstract and then I bring it back to, all right, short term, how can I improve tomorrow? Then things get a little bit more, I don't know what the word I'm trying to think of is, but just kind of assessing what my emotional state was for the day. I mean, most of the time, my emotional state is super high, so I never really have to tick any of these guys. But a lot of the times, I do get bored or tired in the afternoon, so that's kind of a theme that I've been encountering and been playing around with ways that I can combat that. And I think it might be dietary, right? Like I don't eat until dinner, so maybe if I had more food, I'd have more energy. I think probably I can be sleeping a little bit better. Bedtime is a little bit inconsistent. I'm generally pretty good about getting to bed by 10:30, but I probably need to be getting to bed closer to like 9:30. So as I kind of make that adjustment, I can look back here and see, okay, I'm ticking fewer of these boxes and I made this adjustment, so this is probably a good adjustment. And then on the other side, when was I experiencing these positive emotions, and can I correlate that with some event or thing that I was thinking about, and in doing so, I can intentionally do more of that thing. And then finally, it's reviewing and renovating the protocol. So reviewing the daily routine. How did I deviate? Just being not judgmental of myself, not extremely critical, but honest. How did I deviate from the routine? What can I change to improve my ability to stick to the routine? Let's review my goals. What changes do I think I need to make to make these goals more realistic? Both of the goals themselves and of the plan, right? And then finally, I have some bullets over here. I like to, record what I want to work on my resume. So updates that I want to make to my resume, updates that I want to make to my website, updates to social media, etc. But yeah, so this is how I anchor the night. And then I also, let's see, let me I'll pull up my calendar because there's another component to anchoring the night. Here we go. No. Here we go. Refocusing the subconscious. So this is so I anchor the night, right? And then I leave myself a little bit of wiggle room to decompress a little bit. And then I try to refocus the subconscious by 9:30. So what this entails is reciting my goals out loud. So going back to that Google Sheets document, and really crystallizing those target points. So reading that aloud for 5 minutes, recitation of my plan. This is my, definiteness of purpose and plan that I discuss in the Orienting the Day um, protocol, and then I'll do some stretching. Been trying to figure out how I can work in flexibility and mobility work into my day, and I think doing it at night is probably an easy way of doing that outside of just doing it while I'm at the gym. And then finally, visualizing my counsel, imagining a group of people that I respect, admire, want to emulate part characteristics of, and just positing questions to them and simulating what their responses would be. That's what I do for the council, and then I'm working on financial visualizations because I think it's easy to say that money doesn't matter, but I think realistically, money is the greatest tool to gain freedom, at least in a capitalistic society. So I think visualizing where I want to be financially is also important, and doing that before I sleep helps crystallize that in my consciousness. And then when I'm sleeping, I don't know what's going on subconsciously, but maybe I'm doing some work on that end as well. So that's ODAN, right? Orienting the day, anchoring the night. And then on Saturdays, I do this weekly assessment. I've been, in all honesty, not adhering to this as strictly as I would like to. But I think with the creation of this YouTube channel and setting the daily expectation of putting out a video and having weekly video series that hit on all these things, this will help me stick more to these protocols and maybe help other people that are, in similar situations that are looking for ways to, improve their lives, but maybe there's just a puzzle piece missing, and could use some inspiration or, reference to something that's worked for me or that I think has worked, and kind of working with me and kind of help each other get to where we all want to go. So this is like a big boy, 14 sections. So this is a lot of reflection and thought. So this will take probably, I think last time it took me like 30 to 40 minutes. And I was tired and bored. So I was kind of not necessarily giving 100% effort to every question. But I'll just kind of run through this so you guys can kind of get an idea of what this weekly assessment is, and how it's helpful. So the first section is performance, right? Just objectively, what do I need to work on? How can I adjust my approach, either to adjust my expectations or adjust what exactly I'm doing to get closer to those targets? What did I do well on, right? And how do you reward yourself for things that you do well on? Because I think it's really easy to use negative reinforcement as a motivator, but I'm not so good at using positive reinforcement. And I think when you can utilize both of those in tandem, you can get a lot more out of, you can dictate behavior a lot more strongly. So next section looks at character, right? Thinking about, what are my values? What different personalities do I have? Do I have an introverted self and an extroverted self? Do I have a positive and a negative, a yin and a yang, whatever you want to call it? What are different affects, dispositions? How do I present myself to the outside world, in what capacities? And then how do I establish congruence between how I'm presenting myself and who I actually am internally, right? These are questions about character, about the self, about identity. So hit on those. Then this kind of goes more into fitness, right? Cardio. How many days of cardio felt good? Like I said in my fitness video yesterday, 3 to 4 days of cardio a week, doing it every other day. And but I want to get up to 7, right? So how many days felt good? How many days did I push, i.e., I'm working hard, I get a third of the way through the workout, and I'm like, damn, this is going to be really tough. And that voice in the back of my mind is saying, it'll be all right. Just, go a little bit easier, save a little bit for the end. And you hear that voice and you say, go kick rocks. I'm going to stick to the plan. I'm going to push myself and I'm going to make it to the end of the workout. That's what I mean by on how many days did I push for half or more of the workout. Then, how did I feel overall during cardio? And what do I think contributed to this experience? So this is where I can look at my logs from anchoring the night and daily orientation to hypothesize about, did I not get enough sleep that day? Is that why I didn't feel so good on the run? Did I not eat that much? Is that why I didn't feel good on the run? Did I not deliver on some things that I set out to? And the feeling of not living up to my own expectations, unworthiness, are those things trickling into my performance in the cardio aspect? What was my goal for the week? Did I even have a goal? How should I adjust my program? Or should I even adjust my programming? Is the programming fine? Do I just need to change my mindset, change other things outside of the strict cardio programming, or do I need to actually adjust the programming? Those kinds of things. Then flexibility and mobility. This is definitely taking a back seat, right? What are my mobility goals for the week? I haven't had any mobility goals. It's been setting up this system. So once everything's running, I think this will be super smooth and like a really cool science project. Where I'll have all this data and I can make hypotheses about like, what do I need to adjust to do better in these dimensions? It's almost like a video game. So I'm excited about it. But this is a skeleton of questions that I want to, once I sort of start incorporating flexibility and mobility into my routines for exercising, that's when these questions will come into play. So what are your goals? How do you feel during the warm-up and stretching session? What do you think contributed to this? Should I adjust the routine? How? Strength. What are my lifting goals for the week? How did I feel lifting? What contributed to the experience? Should I adjust the programming? How should I adjust the programming? Then style. I think growing up, I was not a big person into personal style. My mom bought all my clothes. I liked a lot of like neon colors, pinks, blues, warm, like tropical stuff. I didn't really have a sense of style. And as I get older, and I'm focusing on being more intentional with presentation. So I think style is a huge component of that. Humans are visual creatures. We judge based on what we see. And even though we try to be better than that, right? We try to judge people based on their intelligence or their kindness or these other character traits. It would be a lie to say that we don't judge people based on how we view them. So what impression do I want to give people in social environments? And what is my ideal style? And how would it contribute to those perceptions, right? How do I create congruency between my presentation, my objective, and my internal self? And so this kind of breaks down more elements of style, right? Clothing. Did I dress in a way that aligns with my style goals? How many days of a week did I do this? How did I dress this week? One by one by one. How should I change the way I dress? Hair. How many days a week did I take care of my hair, right? Did I not condition my hair? Did I opt to not take a shower before bed? Did I not um, use silk pillowcases? Because for my type of hair, any other pillow, like if I don't wear I don't wear a bonnet, but like if I don't wear some kind of silk wrap or have pillowcases that are made out of like really soft material, the friction of just tossing and turning at night dries the hell out of my hair. Um, so, how many days a week did I take care of my hair? How was it this week? Was it messy? Were there days where I just said, screw it, I don't care what my hair looks like, I'm just gonna go out. I don't care. Oh, also about the hair, I'm learning how to cut my own hair. So I bought like a three-fold mirror and some clippers, and as part of this process, every week I'm going to give myself a haircut and try to get better at that skill, and in turn have more control over the presentation of my hair. Teeth. How many days a week did I take care of my teeth, right? Brushing, flossing, mouthwash, whitening. All of those things need to be done pretty much on a daily basis, with the exception of whitening. For whitening, 7 to 14 days on and a month off. How are my teeth this week? Did I notice that they were yellow? Did I notice that they were looking pretty good? How should I change my routine to better agree with my style goals? Going back all the way up here, about perception. How do I want people to perceive me? And how is having rotting teeth, cavities, and and yellow teeth, how is that going to prove to be an obstacle to my objective? Skin. How many days a week did I take care of my skin, right? Lotioning. For like face skincare, moisturizing, exfoliating, using retinol, vitamin C, all those kinds of things. Post shower in the morning or post afternoon shower, sunscreen, all those things go into skincare, right? Everybody has their own skincare routine. I'm trying to figure out what works for me. That's what I've been doing. How many days a week did I do it? How was my skin this week? What did I notice? Did I notice I had crazy bags under my eyes? Did I notice I got, 3 pimples on Wednesday? And how long did it take for them to go away? Is that a consequence of my skincare routine? Is that a consequence of other habits or things that I'm doing? Did I not wash my pillowcases soon enough? Did I not change my bedding? Did I not do my laundry? Those kinds of things. And then how do I change my routine to better agree with my goals? Then nails. I've been a nail biter for the longest time, and I'm trying to eliminate that habit. So if I notice that I'm biting my nails, I just kind of make a mental note of that, write it down somewhere, come back on Saturday. How many days a week did I bite my nails? How were they? Did I bite them to the nub? Were they fine? Do I see whites on them? I don't know if you guys can see this. Camera's kind of iffy, but just kind of assessing, how do they look? How am I doing on this nail biting thing? And then what are some ways that I can combat this habit? So how can I make it difficult for myself to bite my nails? Then voice. I think oftentimes people don't think of their voice as an instrument and something that you can change, but I think voice, the auditory component of presentation is significant. And so how am I vocally presenting my ideas? What is my tonality? How does my voice sound to others? There's always going to be a discrepancy between how your voice sounds to yourself, because it's reverbing or resonating off your bones, and the locus is closer to the processing unit, versus speaking to somebody and having the sound travel. But once again, this YouTube thing is going to help me with that because I can look back to my videos and listen to how I sound. I'm saying a lot. I'm at the end of my sentences, I don't end with a positive inflection or a neutral inflection. I'm ending with a negative inflection. So I'm saying this sentence really long, and then when it's time to end my sentence, I kind of just drop off like this, as opposed to, talking about something for a long period of time and then ending my sentence like this. Those kinds of things. How many days a week was I intentional about my vocal choices, and how did it align with what my goals are? How was my voice this week? Kind of a weird question on the face of it, but I think it's valuable. This stuff is all pretty much plug and play. Like a lot of these questions, you tweak them a little bit, and you sub out voice and you sub in nails, or you sub out voice and you sub in, hair or whatever. So it's just a lot of permutations of the same kinds of questions. How can I change my vocal routine to better agree with my style goals? Am I doing Gregorian chants at night to get more comfortable in those lower registers? Am I speaking with a more heady tone to have more fluency in those upper registers? Those kinds of things. I think this is an area that I'm not, probably one of the areas that I'm the least informed on, but also kind of fascinated by. So I look forward to learning more about vocal manipulation and how you can utilize that in a presenting capacity, and also just a social capacity, right? What sounds good to people in general? What qualities about people's voices do other people kind of across the board like? Is it deepness? Is it resonance? Is it strength? Is it tonality? Those kinds of things. And then finally, gratitude. Gratitude's really important. I think it's so easy to be selfish, and ending on gratitude helps recenter everything, right? A lot of this stuff is all selfish stuff, right? It's like, what do I want? How do I get there, right? On the face of it, that's selfishness. That's the essence of trying to serve yourself as best you can, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you need balance, right? And gratitude is a way of balancing out. How can I serve other people? How did I treat them? How do I want to treat them? How do people want to be treated? What can I do moving forward to show gratitude? What will I change about the ways that I've been showing gratitude? That's where I am. So that rounds out my Saturday weekly assessment. I think I've only done this one time. Yeah, and I just wanted to get through it as fast as possible to kind of figure out how long this would take me on a day-to-day basis. But I think it'll be valuable. It'll be a valuable weekly thing, and then on Sundays I can go over this. So Saturdays it's the ODAN, kind of going over ODAN. Sundays it's going over the week performance, going over protocols. Can I adjust routines? Was there anything that came up that I want to address? That's what I'm going to really be targeting for Sundays. And I think that's a good place to kind of leave things for this first video. So once again, appreciate you all for bearing with me. This is a work in progress. It's only getting better, baby. It's only getting better. And looking forward to seeing you all in the next one. Cheers.